Hey, what's up guys? It's me, ThePsychNPDavidC. So today I'm going to talk about something a little bit more personal, and that is having tattoos in the medical field. If I had a nickel for every time somebody asked me, isn't that unprofessional? Aren't you worried about what your patients are going to think? I'd be rich. So in this video, we'll discuss what it's actually like working in healthcare with tattoos, how attitudes have changed over time, and what I've personally experienced. Let's talk about it. So let's start with the old school view, which is that tattoos are unprofessional in healthcare. This is a long-standing belief, especially in like hospitals or clinics where they want to maintain a clean cut image. So their dress code policy is to have all tattoos covered at all times. If you had tattoos on some place where you couldn't cover it up, like your face or your neck, you just wouldn't be hired in the first place. The CEO at my old hospital actually told all the managers to fire anyone on the spot if they were seen showing their tattoos on the units. And as you might have guessed, he was an older gentleman. But that old school idea is that patients would respect you less if you had tattoos showing. To be fair, back then, tattoos were a lot less common and they were associated with things like gangs or like prisoners. So that's why a lot of hospitals adopted the no tattoo policy. Now let's discuss how things are changing in the current times. Over the last 20 years or so, there's a major change in how tattoos are perceived. Like so many more people have tattoos now, especially compared to back then, like the 1980s or something. Sometimes I'll even see teenagers with tattoos and I'm like, who took you to get that tattoo? But yeah, a lot of mainstream celebrities have tattoos nowadays, like actors, singers, wrestlers, athletes, the list goes on. One recent example is Justin Bieber. When he was younger, he was very clean cut with no tattoos at all. But if you look at him now, his whole body is pretty much covered in tattoos. So since more and more of these celebrities are having tattoos, that influences the general public. A lot more people in the general public have tattoos nowadays. Like you could go to the mall and probably 1 out of 4 people would have at least one tattoo. And unsurprisingly, a lot of those people probably work in healthcare. So back then, when I was a little bit more rebellious as a younger RN, I'd go to work and show off a little bit of my tattoos while the rest was covered in a long sleeve shirt. And I'm not kidding when I say I've never had a negative reaction from a patient ever. I've only been told by the managers at the hospital to cover up. So times are definitely changing regarding the stigma of tattoos, but a lot of healthcare institutions still have the no tattoo policy. Now I get why a lot of hospitals still have that policy. Like if I'm caring for a psych patient and I walk around with all these skull tattoos showing, they might get freaked out. Or some of these tattoos may be gang related or have bad words. So it makes sense for them to want people to have every tattoo covered up. From my experience, I'd say a lot of how much the managers actually care about tattoos really depends on what it is and where it is. Like for me, both of my arms are covered in skulls, so they want that covered up for sure. But if they see someone has a small butterfly tattoo on their forearm, they're not going to say anything. But my advice to you is just to follow your work's dress code. If they want everything covered, just cover it. It's really not worth the hassle or the trouble you might get into. If you're thinking about getting tattoos and you want to work in healthcare, I definitely avoid the face, the neck, and the hands for sure. Now, I want to share some of my experiences regarding reactions from my managers, my coworkers, and even my patients. I would say for 99% of those people, nobody actually cares. The only reason why a manager would care is that if their manager saw that they weren't telling me to cover up, then they would get in trouble. But they themselves don't actually mind the tattoos. A lot of my other coworkers, like nurses and mental health workers, they don't care either. As a matter of fact, I'd actually guess that almost half of them have tattoos themselves. So they know what it's like having to cover it up. And like I said earlier, I haven't actually met a patient who's been disgusted or appalled by my tattoos. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but most of the time the patients are you got sick tattoos, bro. And I'm just thanks. And then some of them will ask to see my entire arm and see every single tattoo I have. And then they'll end up showing me their tattoos too. And then we kind of have a bonding conversation that builds rapport. But yeah, nowadays I still wear long sleeve shirts to cover it up because I know the negative stigma is definitely still there. At the end of the day, your tattoos don't define your professionalism. It's your behavior, your knowledge, and your compassion that does. More and more healthcare facilities nowadays are realizing that you can still be a good worker even if you have tattoos. Whether you're a CNA, an RN, an NP, or a doctor even, it doesn't matter. But if you're a student or a new grad or just someone who's contemplating getting tattoos, I'd recommend just to be smart about your tattoo placement and just follow your work's dress code policy. Like, yeah, it is cool showing off your tattoos, but it's probably not worth the trouble you might get into. So do I regret getting my tattoos at all? Hell no. I'm very proud of my tattoos. I've wanted both sleeves on my arms since I was like 18 years old, and I think they've helped me overall in my work as an RN and an NP because of the connections I've made with my patients. So if you work in healthcare and you have tattoos, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. I am also on TikTok and Instagram if you want to follow me over there at ThePsychNPDavidC. I do telehealth medication management for adults living in California. If you're interested, there's a link down below. And with that, your mental health just leveled up. You're welcome.